Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and welcome back to another Steven Seagal direct-to-video film, and this time is the 2012 film Maximum Conviction with Steven Seagal and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Maximum security, maximum firepower. Now, I will say, I didn't mind this film. I thought it was okay. I thought it was decent. I would put it below Urban Justice and Pistol Whipped. Yeah, I would put it below Urban Justice and Pistol Whipped. I would say of his direct-to-video stuff, this is probably the third best one, which is not saying much. It's nowhere near his golden age of movies. But for me, this guy really helped a lot. Steve Austin. He's a big reason why I enjoyed this film. Stone Cold Steve Austin has made some fun stuff, particularly one called Hunt to Kill that he did, and Gary Daniels, I believe, is in it. Eric Roberts at the beginning of the film. Hunt to Kill is a really good one. I think he did one with Danny Trejo. I remember that being alright. He did one called The Stranger, which sucked. I hate The Condemned because it's a horrible, horrible shaky cam that you can't understand a single fight scene in that fucking movie. Then at the end of the film, it tried to preach to us about the plot of the film. And you're watching this. And I'm like, yeah, watching your fucking movie, but I get that you're mad that people are watching this, but you're kind of... Like, I get your idea, but came off as way too fucking preachy and just to the point it was annoying. I don't remember much of Damage. I might have seen Damage. I don't remember much of it though. The package Steve Austin did with Dolph Lundgren, I thought was okay. I liked it. So there's been some Steve Austin films that I like. Maximum Conviction, Hunt to Kill. I think Hunt to Kill is his best one. But Tactical Force, I like that with Michael Jai White, which a lot of people hate that film. I don't understand that. Um, and this one gets like a 4.9. I'm like, it's not great, but watching it again, I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's that awful of a film. The only Some of the problems I have is in the middle. It takes a little bit too long for it to get started. Because when shit hits the fan, it's about 30 minutes in. Also, there's a little bit too much of wandering around this prison facility, which this film takes place in. But at the same time, I would rather watch this than Half Past Dead. I really would. Also, it helps that considering the string of direct-to-video Seagal films I've been watching, like Against the Dark and Attack Force and Submerged and fucking The Foreigner and Today You Die and Black Dawn and Shadow Man, this at least a film that just has Steve Austin and once in a while Steven Seagal kicking some ass and Michael Pare as your villain. Um, it's just nice to see Michael Pare in there. I mean, let's be honest, he's not really given much, like the most memorable lines of dialogue or anything, but it's just nice to see Michael Pare in there. And the plot's very straightforward. It's not complicated like The Foreigner and some of Seagal's other films. It's just Steven Seagal and Steve Austin, they're part of this group. They go to clean up this military prison facility, secretive that not many people know about. It's taking longer than it should to clean this place out. And then later on, before that, these two women have been transferred into there. And later on, Michael Pare and a bunch of his buddies who pretend to be marshals, they get into the place, they take it over, and they want those two women. One of them is a courier that has some implants that if she dies, the intel is wiped out, so they can't kill her, but they want to capture her. And then the other woman we find out later is actually working with Michael Pare. And pretty much it's Steven Seagal and Steve Austin going around the prison, fighting Michael Pare's goons and trying to find that courier, that woman. And one of the guys who's with the team, these two, One of them is a guy named Bren Foster, who would also be the lead, pretty much the lead in a future Seagal review, Force of Execution. And he does a little bit to show his martial arts at the end. And it's not too long, unfortunately, but it shows like potential. He's a pretty good martial artist. They didn't show enough of it, and you see a little bit more in Force of Execution because again he's more the lead in that. There's a guy I'd never heard of before, Bren Foster. Apparently he did a lot of soap opera work, but his martial arts aren't not too bad. And the film, again, Steven, uh, Steve Austin is one of the main reasons why I had fun with the movie. It's a time waster. I'm not going to call it great, but decent time wasters for Steve Austin. I thought he had some fun lines of dialogue, like when the warden tells him to shut up and he goes negative. I don't need to shut up. Or when that we find out that woman is evil and is beating up Steve Austin. He's like, what was the actual dialogue? He says something like, "What the fuck, babe? Like what the fuck, baby?" And then when he wakes up, holy shit, my kind of woman. And then later on, when she's dead, he looks at her and he goes, "Which one of you motherfuckers killed my future ex-wife?" I thought, yeah, he had some pretty fun one-liners in that. Although one thing I never understood is why we have never gotten a film with Stone Cold Steve Austin where he's just stone cold. That vibrant, energetic, fuck it attitude, yelling and screaming. And watching the making of, I think it's because he feels he had to do that in a wrestling ring to get to the people in the back row, but that on camera he's got to be subdued. And I think maybe that's what people told him to do. It's like, you'll be subdued. I have a feeling that's what he was told because he there's a little interview with him on here, and he admits that he's learning about acting. He's asked like 100 questions to people, other actors, and I have a feeling it's one of the things he's been told, which is too bad because no, people want to see you fucking yelling, cussing, and screaming, and maybe he's fearing that he'll be over the top and quote be laughable. He didn't say all that, but I get that feeling. It's like, Steve, no, don't be as subdued. My only problem with his performance, of really all of his movies that he's done so far, is he's subdued. Let him let loose. But he has a nice sort of, he has some fun lines in it. Again, it's cool to see Michael Pare. Michael Pare was in another film called Into the Sun with Anthony Michael Hall, which I liked that film. He was in Streets of Fire, and he was in Bad Moon, which is a werewolf film I reviewed and I enjoy. Michael Paray's been in a lot of films, and again, like all these straight-to-video Steven Seagal films, it's not like the villains don't have much to say or do, but it was cool for Michael Paré to be there at least. I will say one of the weaker things is actually Steven Seagal to the and I mean it's not as awful as his other direct-to-video films. It's his voice throughout the entire film. I did not notice much doubles. Maybe if there were, they weren't as easy to notice for me as other films. It's just the some of the fight scenes. They're just that handheld shit that you just like push the camera back and leave the camera the fuck alone and just let him do the shit and then move on. Keoni Waxman, who has directed tons of Seagal films, it's like, can you just not be shaking the camera? Can you just stop it? But I mean, great. It's not as bad as other direct-to-video Seagal films. Believe me, I've been watching them all. Like, for example, there's this big guy, this big prisoner fucked up this guard. Seagal goes in and sort of beats him up a little bit, takes a piece of this bench that's been broken, hits the guy in the back. Like a little fight, but it's just It's so just too handheld. Stop moving, please stop moving the camera. And also the editing. I should say it's not just that; it's the editing. Sometimes just can you slow down the edits, please? Can you do that as well? And pretty much Seagal, he goes into town, talks to his team. He was given this note that apparently was passed around, and Seagal, one thing leads to another, realizes something's going to happen tonight. You guys, including this new guy, Brent Foster, you get together. At the meantime, Steve also has to deal with this garbage truck that's there, and there's this guy who later you find out is with the bad guys, but before then, well, I don't know, it's broken, something snapped, and Steve also knows that professional opinion or just a wild fucking guess. Oh, another fun line is when Seagal transfers these two women, and Steve Austin looks at one of them and goes, "Who let the hooker in?" And she goes, "Fuck you." And then as she passes, Steve Austin goes, "Call me." So I like that. A little bit of personality for Steve Austin in the flick. Like I said, Michael Paré comes in as a marshal. Him and his team come in. Uh, there's this. You realize that some of the bad guys are coming through from that garbage truck, and Steve Austin gets out of the way. There's a big blast. And when Steve Austin's fighting, there's some fun stuff. I mean, he's hiding. Like the bad guys are right there. The guy comes. He stabs the guy real quick, right in the neck. I thought that was really cool. And another guy, he like stabs in the stomach, right under the chin. I like that a little bit. He gets chased, and again, some of the little fights with him are pretty fun. And when I said that Seagal was kind of the problem with it, it's because there is some stuff he does alright in the flick. It's just I think of other action stars, like what if it was Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steve Austin? Because Van Damme, let's face it, if you watch his fight scenes alone, you could tell that he could do more. He can do more physically. He's better in shape. Or Dolph Lundgren as a good guy with Steve Austin. I mean, he's a bad guy in the package, Steve Austin, and they only have teeny scenes in the Expendables, but like together, that'd be cool. And also, these two don't share a lot of scenes together. That's also what sucks. They don't share a lot of screen time together. You could probably count up to 5 minutes that they actually spend together, and even less where they're actually in the same shot. Sometimes when it's like someone talking, you see someone's back here. I was like, I wonder if that person was there or if it was just a double talking to each other. I don't know. But it's just, of course, I wish they would have had actually more together on the screen. That would have been more appreciative as well. So they're not on screen together that much because they're sort of off doing their separate different things. Like with Seagal, he's trying to get to those two women. He finds out that one of them's a courier and deals with this, intel stuff that's implanted in her, like really underneath her tit. That's really where it's at. And if she dies, the intel's wiped out. And he gets in little firefights. Although he does say one funny line, Seagal, where he goes, there's these inmates who also has weapons, and Seagal goes, "Why don't you fuck your mama? Why don't you pet poodles?" The way he said that, it made me chuckle, I'll admit. I liked it. And slices one guy in the neck, and by that time the other female, you find out she's a bad guy, she's taking the courier girl. Um, Fights one guy, beats him in a rapid punches, takes an arm, breaks it, looked nice, looked like something actually popped out. Like almost a quick shot, like a bone popping out that's not a CGI effect. I looked at it, I'm like, oh, that's a nice little touch. So it was a nice arm break. I liked his line, "Does that hurt? You fucking pussy." I didn't think Seagal was going to say that. I haven't seen this film in a while, but that did make me laugh. So, again, the reason I said that Seagal is kind of one of the big problems is he's still doing that whispery dialogue, and his his for the most part his fight scenes are okay, but at times they're a little bit too edited or handheld. And it's just I think of other guys that could do more with their fight scenes, like Van Damme or Dolph Lundgren or someone of that nature. Teaming up with, I mean, I'll admit I like Tactical Force more, which that has a lower rating for some reason, but I would say I like Tactical Force more, which was Steve Austin and Michael Jai White. But honestly, if it feels like I'm ragging on the film, I don't mean to be. It's really not that bad of a flick for a direct-to-video action film. It's a pretty decent time waster. I know I've been ragging Seagal a lot, but here I think it would be better if it was Van Damme or Dolph Lundgren or someone else with Steve Austin. That'd be cool if it was The Rock and Steve Austin. Could you imagine that? Those two, considering their wrestling history, if those two were together? Like Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Steve Austin together in an action movie. That would be pretty damn cool. And I wonder if anyone has ever. Well, now The Rock. Well, hell, let Steve Austin be in one of those big movies, like those Fast and Furious movies, and have him go up against The Rock. That would be fucking cool. Or just a non Fast and Furious movie, just a big action movie with those two. They could be together as buddies, or one's a good guy, one's a bad guy, or something. I don't know, just spitballing. But there's a from I will say, to be fair, let me take that back what I said about Seagal earlier, at least for this review. He's fairly alright in this film. I just see other people that would have done it better, but he's fairly alright. Because I'm comparing it to his other direct-to-video films, and he's much worse in those movies than he is in this. Because he's doing this whole dialogue. I did not notice any bad dubbing. That's not his voice. I didn't notice any, at least, really noticeable fight doubles. It's just I wish some of the fights were held, pushed back, see more, and not as heavily edited. Just tone down on the editing. But going past that, it's pretty much just them going around killing people. Really, it's like I said, Seagal does his rapid punches on a guy and breaks his arm. And again, that funny line, "Does that hurt, you fucking pussy?" I thought that was a funny line. Seagal and Austin team up for like a second. Like they meet each other, but then they're shooting at these bad guys. Seagal's headed for the control room where Austin is trying to help this person in the kitchen, but he gets there too late. And like Steve Austin, he kills one with his meat hook. This is little can and creates like a little flamethrower, which I thought was cool, and burns up a guy. And then I like this idea where he takes his propane tank and he hits it, and it shoots and hits this guy, but it's ruined by some really bad CGI. Like when the propane tank flies off and hits a guy, some really bad fire effects, really bad CG fire effects. So that ruined that bit. I like the idea, but it was ruined by the CGI enhancement shit. But I do like the idea behind it. And that's when he just beat up at the bad woman. And he's like, holy shit, my kind of woman. But it's, I mean, a bit too much wandering around trying to get from A to B. But like Austin is fighting this guy in this weight yard, and he just beats the fuck out of a guy and pushes him and impales him on this weight equipment. This is no pain, no gain. You get some little firefights. Seagal and Michael Prey shooting at each other in a little locker room, and then they get into this fight. It's not much of a fight. It's just pretty much Seagal just beating his ass and slamming his head against the sink and throwing him into these mines with some CG enhancement explosion. Meanwhile, that Brendan Foster guy gets a little bit of fighting these other bad guys. Again, seems like a pretty decent martial artist. Steve Austin saves him by shooting a guy. That Asian courier woman shoots the bad woman, and that's why Steve Austin comes up and sees is like Which one of you motherfuckers killed my future ex-wife? But yeah, Seagal kills Michael Pare, and they go off, and it's almost as if there's thoughts of maybe doing a sequel, because they set it off as if they're going to another mission, but I don't know, maybe that was changed. I don't know. But it's almost as if they wanted to do a sequel, just like, oh, let's do this and get some payback for these other, like some mission from way ago, and yeah, we got this money that I'm not going to explain how they got the money, but by the end they have a shitload of money as well, and yeah, it's almost as if they wanted to do a sequel, but I'd be open to it. Considering Seagal did that movie Force of Execution, that got 2 follow-ups, a Goodman Absolution, and I'm like, why did that one get follow-ups? I would rather see follow-up to this. But yeah, I'm not going to call this film great. It just, I wish these two were in the film together more. Seagal, again, I've been writing on him in the review, but compared to other direct-to-video stuff, he did all right. But slow down on the editing and slow down on the handheld stuff. Or just cast someone else like a Jean-Claude Van Damme or Dolph Lundgren or The Rock. Dwayne Johnson, which would be interesting with Steve Austin. But okay, Steven Seagal, again, compared to the last dozen flicks I've seen, there's some really decent ones like Urban Justice, Pistol Whip, but there's a lot of bad ones. And he does alright in this. I will say, I thought he did alright. And Michael Pare, cool to see him in there. Oh, Brendan Foster, I guess, was a Taekwondo world champion. Okay. And when he's able to do his little moves at the end, seems like a decent martial artist. Well Enough is one of the few direct-to-video films of Seagal's that actually got an audio commentary with the director as well as co-executive producer Bing Dane and director Keoni Waxman, as well as some little featurettes. I thought it was alright because it was just, for the most part, these two guys going around prison fighting some folks and kicking ass, and hell, if you know me, I always would appreciate more action. Started off, I think a little bit, fix those problems I'm talking about. A little bit too long to get started, and fix a little bit of the editing handheld, and don't have CGI enhancements in there. Have some more with these two together on screen, like in the same shot. But yeah, just I like Steve Austin in the film. It's cool to see Michael Pare in there. I didn't get too bored with the film. It was a time waster. It was an okay, halfway decent time waster. Believe me, you could do a lot worse. You could do a lot better. Deadly Outbreak, Riot with Gary Daniels, Deadly Outbreak with Jeff Speakman, Wake of Death with Van Damme. Uh, you do a lot better, but you do a lot worse. So, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you later.